Hello Nordanger students, and welcome to this unit on web authoring using JavaScript. In today's constructing element, we're going to look at JavaScript basics, and we're going to explore the use of variables in collecting different types of data and providing feedback to the user. Now already you've learned about using websites, creating them with HTML and CSS. And this then, HTML adds the content and CSS looks at the layout and the design, but the JavaScript brings the websites to life. And this is where we're going to start looking at, for example, creating a quiz. So going over to Notepad++, I've set up the basic layout. I've got my tags for the HTML. I've got my tags on my head and my body. And I've got a new one called script, which is where all my coding is going to be. That is currently in the properties, but later on we'll show you how we can put that in the body section as well. And of course, don't forget, save as, and we save it as a HTML document. A HTML file, hypertext markup language. So let's just test this out a bit. Let's, when we run this, we want it to show a window, and it's going to be an alert window that will just show the words hello world. The most common program that someone types when they first program is just to have hello world appear on the screen. So I'm going to go, I've saved this, and I'm going to go to Chrome. I've already got the page open, so I'm going to refresh it, and straight away an alert appears on the screen that says hello world. So I know that works. So let's do a bit more into this. Let's have a look at variables. So a variable is something we can store a value, and we can do this in JavaScript. So I will create a variable, and first of all I need to define it that I will create this variable. So I need to have 3 letters, var, V-A-R, short for variable, and I'm going to name this my pet, semicolon. Then I'm going to say my pet equals, in speech marks, because it's a word, I'm going to say tiddles. And then all I'm going to say now is window alert. And then because I am calling this variable, I don't need to have speech marks. I could just write my pet. And if I save this, go back to Chrome, it'll say hello world, because I haven't deleted that. And then it'll say tiddles. Like so. And I could also say my pet is called, and if I put the plus here and save it, let's just add a space there, and refresh it, so it's going to say hello world. It'll now say my pet is called Tiddles. So I can concatenate it as well. I can join items together. So rather than just say Tiddles, it'll say my pet is called, and then it will join that with the variable. Perfect. I can even add to this as well. So I've said my pet up here, and I've said my pet is called Tiddles. What happens if you want to have any user type in this? Okay. Easy enough. I can say window.prompt. And of course, prompt means it's asking the user for an instruction. So here I will say, what is your pet called? And then it will then basically window.alert, my pet is called, and it will call whatever I've typed into this prompt. So if I go back, refresh, hello world, what is your pet called? I will put Ninja, press OK, and it will say my pet is called Ninja. It calls whatever I've stored in that variable. Okay, very clever. Now, I'm going to delete this now. And in fact, I will delete this part here. Now, we can also do calculations on here. And just to go through a bit about calculations, if, for example, I use, now we've already seen that if I want to concatenate, if I want to join things together, I can join things like this by saying speech mark, a word or an item plus another item, okay? But it doesn't quite work when you're doing calculations. And I will show you why. So I've got two things look very similar. The difference is the 10 and the 5 in the first one are surrounded by speech marks and the second one isn't. So with numbers, it works slightly different. And if I run this now, the first one just joins them. By using the speech marks, it thinks it's text and it just joins them together. The second one, though, because numbers it knows it can do calculations with, by not putting them in speech marks, it will then add that together or multiply them or divide them, like so. So that's a very simple thing there. And again, I can then basically do that in terms of let's say calling numbers, for example, doing a very simple calculation. So if I say num1, so I will say variable, which I'm defining my variable there, num1. I can even say num1 equals 6, semicolon, var num2 equals 7, and then I will say var answer. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. And answer equals num1 add num2, semicolon. And then I'll have the window alert will basically feed back the result of answer. So I will store the value of 6 in num1, store the value of 7 in num2, and it will then take the contents of num1 and num2, add them together, and then we'll give you the answer. It will store it in answer, and then we'll feed this back. And because it's already, I'm putting a number there, it will automatically know it is a number. So if I run this, it should show 13, which is correct. Great. Where this becomes a bit trickier is if I suddenly do window.prompt. And if I say enter a number from 1 to 10. Let's make that a bit more defined there. Okay? So if I do this time, what happens now? So if I save, I run, and it's going to ask me a number. So I'm going to say 5. So 6 plus 5 should be 11. But it gives me 65. Why is that? Well, in terms of this, because I'm using a prompt to ask for a number, it automatically thinks that it's going to be a text value. So I need to tell the computer, no, this isn't a text value, this is a number. And I need you to deal with this as if it's a number. So I now need to convert this text string, this variable text string, as a number. So I'm going to call num2, and I'm going to store the value of that previous num2 now as a number. So I'm going to use the word number, which is going to be the data type, and I'm just going to put num2. So very simple. I'm just taking the value that was stored previously and this time convert it to a number and storing it as the variable num2. So I'm not doing anything as num2. I'm just making sure that value is a number this time. So if I save it and I refresh, this time if I put 5, it shows 11. Just a little change like that. So that is a very, very simple thing to do. Now, another one for you to do. So we've looked at prompt, we've looked at alert. Let's have a look at another type of window that you can use. And we can say window.confirm. Okay, we can say window.confirm. And this time, I'm going to say, do you have a pet? Do you have a pet? And I'm just going to say, to see if this works, I will say window.alert. And I need to actually do this as a variable here. So I need to say var choice equals window.confirm. Do you have a pet? And this will store it as either a yes or a no or a true or a false. Basically, it's Boolean. It's 2 values. And it will then feed this, and it will then feed this back to the user as an alert. Okay? So if I save this, we can see what is fed back. Is it yes or no? Is it true or false? So if I do this, do you have a pet? Okay or cancel. So I will say okay, and it will feed it back as true. So Boolean is either true or it's false. We can see that quite visibly. So we can then go into this and we can use a conditional. We can then say if, and in brackets, we could then say if choice is equals to something. Now, we've already seen equals is storing, is assigning. So equals to something would be double equals. If it's true, and then I use my squiggly bracket here, make sure I indent this in, I could then say window.alert. I could say nice to see you have a pet. And then I can close that squiggly bracket and I can do else, which will be anything else that I've entered, which will be the cancel this time. And I can then say, maybe you should get a pet. Maybe you should get a pet. And if I save this, what it will look at is if I press OK, it's true, then it will do this. Otherwise, it will do the opposite. So if I run this, press OK, nice to see you have a pet. Perfect. Ideal. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.